You're listening to Spurscast, episode 657. My name is Paul Garcia, and I am your host here on the Spurscast. I'll be going solo for this Spurscast episode. In this episode, I wanted to answer a few questions about how trades would work this offseason regarding the San Antonio Spurs in the event that they did pursue some trades this offseason. So let's jump right into this episode. So this shouldn't take too long of an episode. I know that we haven't discussed the lottery pick that the Spurs got. They got the 9th pick in the lottery, kind of which was expected. I will have Benjamin Bornstein on a future Spurscast episode to go over some different draft prospects in that 9th pick range. But for now, what I kind of want to do is I've just been getting a lot of questions on social media. And just different people asking me, what are the situations with the Spurs' trade scenarios with basically their draft picks, with the players that are going to free agency, with the players on non-guaranteed contracts. And so to kind of sum this all up, I'm going to basically break those players into different categories, and we're going to go through, what it would take for those players to get traded. So I've kind of created some slides here that kind of show you this. Again, you can listen to the Spurscast still on audio, but again, we do have our Project Spurs Network YouTube channel, so if you check that out, you will be able to see the visual format. So let's begin first of all with the draft picks, because we know the Spurs have 4 draft picks here in the lottery upcoming. So the Spurs do have the 9th pick. That 9th pick will have a $4.9 million cap hold on the Spurs' team cap sheet. They will also have the 20th pick in the first round. That pick will have a $2.8 million cap hold on the Spurs' cap sheet. And then they'll also have the 25th pick in this first round with a $2.3 million cap hold in the first round. So again, because right now the Spurs are projected to have these players or at least draft at these positions right now on their team sheet going into the 22-23 season, these players, even though there's no name there because the players haven't been drafted yet, there's at least on the roster sheet that there is those cap holds in place for those players, so that when they get drafted by the Spurs, then eventually they will sign their contracts, and then you put a name to that spot on the roster. Now, the 38th pick that the Spurs have in the second round, that player or whoever that player is going to be, the second round picks do not have cap holds. So again, right now on the cap sheet, there's not really a spot for the second round pick unless the Spurs do want to sign that player eventually. The Spurs lately have been signing their second round picks. We think of players like Trey Jones, some other players in the past, but when they were like title contenders, they didn't always sign their second round picks. They would have them play in Austin or maybe like on a 2-way deal or things like that. So again, we'll kind of see what happens with the second round pick there at 38th. So what are the trade rules regarding the first round picks? So picks, the picks can be traded before the draft or they can be traded after the draft, but the cap hold doesn't count as salary in a trade. So again, if the Spurs wanted to move the 25th pick or the 20th pick early, then when you're putting some salary together for a package, a trade package, you can't put that the 20th pick is worth $2.8 million in your trade package, and the 25th pick is worth $2.3 million. It just doesn't work like that. They count $0 for now, and then at those picks, those holds right now. So then once the trade is executed, let's just say we're in the scenario where it's before, then once that team acquires that pick, or let's say the Spurs acquire a pick, right, in the first round, then automatically that cap hold gets put onto that team's cap sheet. So again, even though in creating the trade it didn't work out, like where you could actually use the cap holds as part of the deal, when that trade actually goes down, well then those cap holds are on each of those teams' cap sheets. The cap hold does not count as salary, as I kind of mentioned there, once the trade is completed. Now, what's interesting about afterward, if the Spurs were to try to trade for a pick or trade a pick away to another team afterward, it gets tricky because you're basically kind of relying on whoever that team had already drafted for you on the night of the draft. So again, maybe there was some sort of verbal agreement, and the teams talk to each other about draft this player, and then we'll make the trade later on after July 6th, after the moratorium's lifted. But again, for if that's not the case, well then you're kind of just taking the player of whoever was drafted at that spot from that team, if you're in those scenarios. Now, what happens if the first round pick does sign their contract after July 1st, after they've already been drafted, these players? Then let's say that the Spurs or another team wants to trade those players that are at the first round picks. Well, in that scenario, there is a 30-day wait before you can move a rookie who just signed their rookie schedule. So again, there's a 30-day wait to make a trade in that scenario. So again, these are the different avenues that the Spurs or any team could go by with their first round draft picks primarily. Let's go to topic 2, and this is the Spurs' free agents. It's mainly just Lonnie Walker IV. I know there's a few other free agents out there, but he's the big name here in terms of the Spurs' roster who's going to be a free agent. So Lonnie does become a free agent on July 1st. The Spurs have until June 29th to tender him a $6.3 million qualifying offer. which would make him a restricted free agent. So what does that mean if you make a player a restricted free agent? Let's say the Spurs tendered Lonnie this $6.3 million qualifying offer. Well, then that gives the Spurs, once free agency starts, the opportunity that if Lonnie were to sign an offer sheet from another team, it gives the Spurs 48 hours, 2 days to match that offer sheet to determine if are they going to match the offer sheet and keep Lonnie on the roster at those terms of that new offer sheet, or are they're gonna not match that offer sheet, and then basically Lonnie gets to sign with his new team at that offer sheet. The Spurs wouldn't have to make that determination until after the moratorium list is lifted on July 6th, whereas Lonnie would be able to negotiate with teams on July 1st and actually sign an offer sheet at least beginning July 1st, 2nd, whatever date he would like after July 1st. And then in terms of what is on Lonnie's name on the roster sheet, what is his cap hold? He has a $13.3 million cap hold right now on the Spurs sheets entering the 2022-23 season. And so what that means is that gives the Spurs the ability to re-sign him using that cap hold. They could also use cap space, or his name is on there until he either sides with another team, or if the Spurs, what we call renounce his cap hold, where they just basically say, we're going to renounce the right to Lonnie's bird rights, and so then he becomes an unrestricted free agent. So again, that $13.3 million does stay on the Spurs' cap sheet for Lonnie's place there on the roster until he either signs with the Spurs again, or if he moves on to another team. Now, what are the trade rules regarding Lonnie? This is a question I've been getting a lot. He can't just immediately be traded, because again, he's not on the roster anymore at this point. Yes, he has a cap hold of $13.3 million, but you can't put that as salary into a deal like package with other salaries. That just doesn't work. So the only way Lonnie can be traded is if the Spurs, Lonnie, and whatever team it wants Lonnie to sign with them, if they were to all three parties reach what's called a sign and trade agreement. So again, this has to take place within 48 hours after after it's all negotiated and everything's all the contracts have been signed. And this cannot occur until after July 6th, which is when the NBA moratorium lifts. So again, the only way Lonnie could be traded to another team is if he is signed and traded. And again, this takes agreement from Lonnie, the Spurs, and that other team, whoever they are. And the Spurs have been going through this route, and a lot of teams have lately, because again, it's a way to at least get some assets if you're going to lose a player. The Spurs did this recently when DeMar DeRozan went to Chicago. They worked at a sign and trade deal with the Bulls. They did this recently with Doug McDermott and the Indiana Pacers. So Doug wanted to come to San Antonio. The Pacers wanted to get something back a little bit for Doug, so they were able to make a sign and trade agreement with San Antonio. Now, here's one thing to watch, and I got this from Larry Kuhn's CBA FAQ. That's a very good document if you ever want to really dive into the CBA and really see the ins and outs of that document. Basically, what it says there is that if Lonnie were to sign an offer sheet, again, between July 1st and July 6th, at any point, basically, once free agency starts, if he signs that offer sheet, puts that pen to that paper, well, then there is no possibility of a sign and trade. Now, the only way that say they're going to work is if the Spurs match the offer sheet and keep Lonnie on the team with those terms, or if they decline and then Lonnie stays on that new team. So again, if Lonnie were to go a little bit quicker than July 6th, which is the moratorium when it lifts, then he would basically throw out a possibility of a sign and trade to that next team if he were to sign that offer sheet and put the Spurs in that place of on July 6th, figure out, are they going to match? They have 2 days to match, or are they going to let Lonnie walk to those new terms? So again, that's something to watch regarding if the Spurs were to look through and Lonnie wanted to move on from each other and use the trade possibilities. Those are the two routes that would happen. And now a quick word from our sponsor. The NBA playoff action is nonstop at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This week, new customers can bet just $5 on any team to win and get $150 in free bets if they do. Looking to turn a small bet into a big payday during the NBA playoffs? With DraftKings same-game parlays, you can do just that. Create your own parlay by combining multiple bets like which team will win, total threes made, total rebounds, and more, and boom, you have a shot at an even bigger payout. Right now, all customers can place a same-game parlay with 3 or more legs and get a free bet back up to $25 if one leg doesn't hit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TBPN. Bet $5 on any NBA team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. That's promo code TBPN. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All right, so we're back here again. Just kind of going through different trade scenarios here for the Spurs this offseason, and also again, this could be applied to a lot of different teams. So now another question I keep getting is, and again, I just want to kind of address here is the non-guaranteed players. How would their contracts work in any kind of trades this offseason? Let's first begin with how much the players have on the salary sheets and how much they're projected to get for next season if they remain on the roster. So Zach Collins does have a $7.3 million contract for next season. Right now, it is partially guaranteed for $3.6 million. So if Zach were to get moved in deal right now and the Spurs didn't guarantee his full offer, then they could only include that $3.6 million in the deal. Now, if they wanted to include the whole his full 7.3 amount, well, then they would have to guarantee that amount first. So that's the only way that they could get to that full 7.3 if they were looking to move on from Zach Collins. Keita Bates-Diop, Trey Jones, and Jock Landale. Keita Bates-Diop has a $1.8 million non-guaranteed contract coming up this next season. Trey Jones has a $1.7 million contract, and then Jock Landale has a $1.5 million contract. Again, all three are non-guaranteed. So if the Spurs were to put any of these three players in a trade deal, and they did not guarantee their amounts, well, then that would count as $0 in salary in terms of the amount that's going into to build the trade package. So once the trade goes down and those players end up on the next team, then they're still on that non-guaranteed basis where the team can decide, are they going to keep Trey or Keita Bates-Diop or Jock Landale? But again, as far as creating a trade package, they were not able to use those amounts. Now, the only way that those teams and the Spurs could use those amounts is if San Antonio first says, okay, we're going to guarantee the full $1.8 million for Keita Bates-Diop, or we're going to guarantee the full $1.7 million for Trey Jones. Then once they guarantee those amounts, then you can put those amounts into a trade package and start using those as salaries to kind of work to build up toward a bigger salary if that's what you're planning to do. So again, that's kind of how the players on non-guaranteed deals work. And then the last players on the roster are the players who are expected to be back next season. Again, I don't want to start any rumors. I'm not saying that the Spurs are looking to trade any of these players on this page. I'll go through the names here. You have DeJounte Murray, Doug McDermott, Josh Richardson, Jakob Poeltl, Romeo Langford, Devin Vassell, Josh Primo, and Keldon Johnson. I only have these players listed because these are the players that are on guaranteed deals for next season. So again, if in the event the Spurs wanted to move any of these players, and I'm not reporting that they have any interest in doing this. This could happen two ways basically to put in these players in. It's just like any player on a guaranteed contract to move them in a trade. This could happen before July 1st, so before the this season ends, the 21-22 season. Although that's very, very rare. It doesn't usually happen. The last team I saw do it was the Oklahoma City Thunder. They traded for Kemba Walker before the season had ended, and that's because OKC had a lot of cap space at the time. It's most teams their rosters are kind of set, and they're trying to just get to are they going to play the luxury tax, or what's their amount going to cost for this current season? So they don't usually go through with trades right now. They wait until after July 1st once the moratorium lifts on July 6th. So the other way would, of course, be after the moratorium lifts. That's on July 6th. Then, of course, the Spurs could include any of these players in a package if they were looking to move those players. So, again, as far as the players on guaranteed deals, it's just like normal trade routes. And you have, from that point after July 1st up until the trade deadline, which will be sometime in February. So, again, that's all this was. It wasn't really a really, a detailed Spurscast episode. It was detailed, I would say, yes. But in terms of opinion and kind of going back and forth with guests, I just wanted to kind of throw out just the different trade scenarios, because again, I think this is a good guide for those that keep asking questions. This is a pretty good place to find some answers here on how each Spurs player, the draft picks, how they would work if the Spurs were looking to move any of those players in a trade. So before we close out this episode, don't forget to visit projectspurs.com. Any offseason news, we will be continuing to write up that news on the website. Also, don't forget to visit Benjamin Bornstein's Spurs Prospect Watch series. He's continued to get you ready for the draft. I know the combine just it's either happening or just finished, and so then we got the draft coming up next month in June. So that's something to watch. Ben will continue to keep looking at different prospects. Thanks for taking some time to listen to this episode of the Spurscast, and also thank you to Joe Garcia for mixing and producing this episode. From all of us at Project Spurs, stay safe and have a great day.